Well, good morning to you all. Thank you very much for joining the session today. This is a first of our live sessions that we'll be hosting with the real focus on helping suppliers understand what supplier diversity is and the purpose of supplier diversity and what it means to those corporates who actually want to work with diverse suppliers. I'm Jason Roberts, the founder of Kaleida International. And a bit about me, first of all, is that I started my career about a 24-year-long career stint working in financial services. In that time, I spent about 11 years working within investment banks and then about 13 or so years actually selling technology back to banks, asset managers, and hedge funds. And it was in those circumstances in sales that I often walked into the sales room and experienced some levels of unconscious bias, okay? And what I mean by that is you walk into the room and there's no representation in that room. There's no one who's LGBTQ+, there's no women in senior management, there's no one of ethnic minorities, there's no one who's disabled, and there's a lack of representation. And what that causes is in the sales process is it introduces an affinity bias, which then ultimately compounds the imposter syndrome within the supplier themselves, particularly those organizations owned and operated by diverse individuals. So I wanted to build a platform that would be different to LinkedIn and different to Facebook, but allow companies to engage with each other, but also help to promote those small marginalized organizations that sometimes have struggles getting into these big corporates. I'm really proud today to talk and introduce you guys to Rebecca Howard, the supplier relationship manager at the Coventry Building Society, and Nurup Namanji as well, who is a small business, a brand new startup who's been going for about a couple of years now. And we'll be interviewing these guys later in the process. Now, as I mentioned at the top, today is really a Zoom call, not a webinar, because I want you guys to be involved in the conversation, to ask questions, and I will give you some opportunities to do that. From the agenda perspective, there's quite a bit to get through, so I will get going. The focus really is on supplier diversity from the supplier's lens, okay? So first of all, let's just discuss what is supplier diversity, what is supplier diversity, how does it work, and who's it really for? So just to kind of share some information for you first, supplier diversity is the concept of corporates buying services from organizations which are owned and operated, at least 51% owned and operated by marginalized communities. Now, typically, those communities in the UK are made up of 6 different identities. You can be an ethnic minority, a woman-owned business, a disabled-owned business, neurodivergent. So let's say you have ADHD or dyslexia, or you're dyslexic. There's the veteran community, and there are also female-owned businesses as well. Those 6 communities make up the identities that fall under the umbrella for a diverse supplier. Why it's important is when you walk into those sales rooms, typically, those are the types of identities that typically will experience a bias or a prejudice. And I'm very careful with the language here. This is not about racism. This is not about homophobia. This is not about sexism. It's about an unconscious bias that happens in that sales room that causes the individuals who are running those sales processes to experience a level of bias, albeit unconscious, that impacts your ability as business owners to be successful. Okay, so that's what supplier diversity is. And we built the Kaleida platform in order to help businesses, the corporates that is, the buyers, find, identify, assess, and then invite these diverse suppliers to tender. For the small business themselves, the Kaleida platform is a real focus, really focuses on helping them find these opportunities that they probably would never have had access to before. And we got a great story to talk about with Rebecca. I'd love to hear her answer to our questions and your questions as well. So that's what supplier diversity is. Why is it important? Supplier diversity is important because it gives those marginalized communities access to opportunities that they probably would not have had access to before. How many of you would have called a Nike or an Allianz or a Unilever to sell your products and services? We typically tend to avoid those big organizations because there's a fear that they won't want to do business with us. What I'm proud to say is we're working with organizations who really see the value in supplier diversity. Not only do they see the value in giving you access to opportunities and helping your businesses grow through access to economic opportunities, but it's actually value and benefit to them as large businesses as well. By attracting you as clients, it helps them not only do the ethical thing, but it helps them also gain access to a new commercial audience that can grow their revenue streams as well. So businesses, big corporates, find supply diversity not just the ethical thing to do, but it makes great business sense as well. So supply diversity has been going on for a number of years, maybe 40 to 45 years across the US. It's fairly new in its instance in the UK, and we're going to be talking about why that's the case as well. One of the challenges that businesses have with supply diversity, okay, is that there are a number of non-governmental organizations, or called NGOs, and they all focus on their own individual identities. So you have, for example, MSD UK, you may be familiar with. They look after ethnic minority-owned businesses. You have the NGLCC or EGLCC, who look after the LGBTQ community. An actual fact in the UK, recently launched, was Out Britain, who also who run the Chamber of Commerce for the LGBTQ community. But what the challenge is for these corporates is getting access to diverse suppliers and being fully inclusive, and then having to join all these different organizations around the center of this screen. And what it means is, where a buyer wants to work with diverse suppliers, they either choose to be with one community or two communities, which means that they are ultimately excluding other communities from access to those opportunities. And so with the Kaleida platform, as a fully inclusive platform, we focus on helping you find these opportunities irrespective of your diverse identity. So without further ado, let me quickly run a quick poll in here, please, just to kind of get some profile on you. We'll run the first poll. Please just quickly answer this question on there if you can, if you are a buyer or supplier. I think you have the option to keep this anonymous as well. I'll just keep quiet for a second. Very good. So some of you okay, that's fantastic. And there's a second poll. I think we have, how many do we have here? I think there's probably two more to vote if you want to vote. Thank you very much. We'll end that poll. And then the second one, I'll share the results on that right now. You should be able to see on the poll results. There is one buyer here, 13 suppliers, but 6 of you have said that you're both buyer and supplier. So very interesting there. And then we'll go back and do the second poll, which is really around the purpose of this session today, is do you have a sales target for 2023? Those of you who are both suppliers and buyer and supplier, do you have a sales target? Because one of the things that small businesses struggle with is actually raising revenue or getting revenue to grow their businesses. So it's interesting if those organizations don't have a sales target, how you begin to really track your performance over the year and hit those opportunities that will help you grow your business. So we'll start this in just a couple of seconds as you continue to vote. So far we've got 79% of you do have a sales target, 21% say you do not have a sales target, and I'll just share those results now as well so you can see. So very interesting when you look at how to actually grow a business. This becomes very important, a very important facet of your organizations, that you have a target. But without further ado, and Rebecca's pinned as well, please allow me to call to the stage Rebecca Howard, the head of supplier relationship management at the Coventry Building Society. And Rebecca, it's lovely to speak to you again today.
Hi, Jason. Thanks very much for welcoming me onto the session today. Great to see everyone.
Right, excellent. Let's see if we can stop the share, and that way we can have you and I on the screen. It should be good. Perfect. Okay, so Rebecca, please tell me a bit about your role. And guys, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, and we'll be able to help give you a time to ask the questions of Rebecca as well. But Rebecca, just help us go into this. Tell me a bit about your role and what it means at the Coventry Building Society.
Sure. So I head up the supplier relationship management team. We're part of a procurement department that has 30 people in Coventry Building Society. We're a regional financial services organisation based in the West Midlands area of the UK. And over the course of the last year, we've launched our supplier diversity initiative. We're really looking to welcome more underrepresented groups in our supply chain. We already work with quite a lot of local businesses, and we recognise that when we have different sorts of organisations in our supply base, it gives us access to an amazing stream of new ways of working. Lots of lean businesses, lots of startup firms, lots of firms that have got new ideas and innovations, firms that can give us access to communities and ways of doing things and thought processes that we haven't thought about before. All of these things are the reasons why we want to introduce more underrepresented groups in our supply base. We introduced a supplier code of conduct a couple of years ago, and last year we extended the themes of that to ensure that all of our suppliers knew that diversity was a key element of what we were looking for. And now when we screen potential suppliers, when we're going through our pre-qualification process, it's important for us to understand what that supplier if it is part of an underrepresented group, and to understand what sort of broader sustainability benefits the organisation will bring. So for me and my role, I look after all suppliers in the post-contract relationship after we've already brought our suppliers on board. And I work closely with all of our procurement professionals in the team who run the competitive bidding process for suppliers. We have recently joined the Kaleida platform. We're delighted. We've already got some opportunities published on there for new tenders. And over the course of this year, we'll continue to keep those coming, where we've got a pipeline of competitive bids, and we'd love to welcome just greater access to those from firms who can help meet the solution.
Yeah, I mean, we're really thrilled to have you and the team on board, Rebecca. So thank you for, I guess, look, here's the thing. We're a small business as well, right? So, but we have an innovative solution. And many of you businesses on this chat today also have small businesses which can offer innovation. Rebecca, what goes into launching a supply diversity program within the company? Because a lot of people here will be thinking, oh, it's just a tick box exercise. But I think there's so much effort involved that a tick box exercise kind of do it justice. What goes into it?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's so important to get the will of the organization, people wanting to do it. Now, for us, we're lucky. We are a building society. It means it's a mutual organization. We don't have shareholders. We're owned by our customers that we call our members. And I think typically organizations that fall into that category tend to have quite a purpose-led approach to business. So for us, our organization is all about giving people the power in the West Midlands in the UK, the power to be better off through life. And those people could be the citizens who live in that area. It could be our suppliers who live and work in that area and around the UK. And it's also our customers and our investors as well. So we've got quite a lot of different stakeholders who we are working for their advantage, essentially. And because of that, it meant that when I wanted to launch the programme, I did a roadshow around the organisation, explained why we were hoping to do it, did really an exercise to gain the hearts and minds of the individuals involved. I sit on an ESG steering committee, which has basically executive sponsorship and presence. So that was an important point of call to ensure that the whole senior team agreed that, yes, we would be doing this, so that when I was then visiting different parts of the organisation, they understood that it was part of our purposeful approach. We had senior commitment. And what we were really looking to do then was to get buy-in for the individual tender packages, because even if the organisation commits to it, it doesn't necessarily mean the head of marketing or the head of IT is willing to publish their tender opportunities. So that roadshow was really important, just to get the local commitment from the different departments in the organisation. And then obviously ensuring that we create that visibility, a shop window for potential firms to know, yes, we're open for business here. Yes, we welcome those tenders, which was what Kaleida's all about. Obviously we supported that with things like a press release, making it visible on LinkedIn that we'd started the process. And now the suppliers page of the Coventry Building Society website also shows that prospective suppliers should use the Kaleida platform if they are diverse firms and they want to be able to access opportunities. So I think it's that mixture of, early buy-in from the right decision makers, and then ensuring the communications and the channels for firms to access you are really clearly publicised.
Fantastic. And guys, look, please feel free to begin to pen your questions down. We're going to open up the floor to questions for Rebecca to answer in a few moments. And I guess, Rebecca, you know, finally for me, really, when we think about supplier diversity, what really is the benefit to, I guess, to the supplier to be able to work with an organization like yourself? What do they gain apart from the revenue? What else can they gain from you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think there's a huge advantage to working for a mutual organization because naturally we're a responsible business. We've got really great ethical practices in the business, a conduct for all employees for how we treat all of our stakeholders, and that includes suppliers. So you can expect professional, courteous, ethical behavior. We pay all of our invoices in 30 days. And as an organization, we believe in sort of supporting, you know, in terms of references, case studies, testimonials, the sorts of things that can help small businesses grow. So I think, yeah, and that can be a tough call. Obviously, for many multinationals, it's great to be able to put that logo or reference the fact you're working with a multinational, but sometimes, you know, a slightly different firm like ours, we can be a bit more practical in the help we're offering, like obviously faster payment and business testimonials as well, to give you access to other prospective customers.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that one of the things that I've seen in the process of us growing our relationship is that there's a real awareness of the importance that the reliance that small businesses have on being paid on time, on having access to those opportunities, and actually, fact, being able to use your logo to say we're partners with these organizations. Because a lot of times for businesses, where small businesses give discounts or whatever on concessions, what they're actually looking for is the asset, right, in use of logo, in the use of the names, or a case study to promote their small businesses. Guys, we're going to open up to questions. So there's a couple of questions come on the chat, but feel free to unmute yourself. Ade, I'll come to you first. If you don't want to speak, I'll ask the question out loud for you as well, but feel free to ask your question. We've got about 5 minutes for questions from Rebecca, for Rebecca.
Hi, I'm happy to speak if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Hi, Rebecca. Thanks for explaining, but my question was around how do you ensure the supplier diversity actually works? So, for example, I work for a facilities management company. Most of the tenders we go for, we have to compete with multinationals like Sodexo, Mighty, Circle, and the rest. We don't have the same brand power or the backing that they have, but we're fully qualified as much as they are. We provide the same services, and we almost never get the same contracts.
Did you get the question, Rebecca? I don't know if I
did, yeah.
Sorry,
I noticed Ade had that in the chat as well, about how exactly does it work, and is there any quota given to SMEs and diverse businesses? And in our organisation, we don't. So we don't have a quota that says we must award to a small or a diverse business, or we're trying to, you know, get whatever 50% of spend through diverse businesses. And I think that is going to be a really difficult approach for any corporate procurement team. You know, for us, obviously, we're dealing with business people who are looking for solutions that just meet their requirements. And the good news is that generally, for me, for the colleagues in my business, they don't mind who can meet those requirements. They don't have a preference or a prejudice that says only a multinational can do it, only a firm with income above this value can do it, only people, you know, who've got more than 50 employees can do it. All they're looking for is the fit of your solution to what their requirements are. And so for us, that's what we do in the pre-qualification process, is to figure out, does this prospective supplier have the capacity, the capability, the experience in order to be a suitable candidate? Because if you're presenting something exciting, it doesn't really matter the profile of the firm. And I think that's important. I don't think it's going to be an easy sell for any procurement person to you know, get across to the colleagues in the business, or you have to choose this particular supplier. Now, for us, we know what the profile of our supply base is, the composition, because when we onboard new suppliers, we ask them about their organization. You know, are you a micro business? Are you owned, you know, by someone in the LGBTQ plus community or women owned. So we set a kind of baseline for where we are at the moment. And for us, about 18% of our suppliers are diverse currently. So we definitely know, we want to build on that. We've got capacity to build on that. Like many firms, you're always spending additional money anyway, because you've got new programs, new initiatives that you're starting. So it's not a case of, suppliers being worried that money is going to get taken away from them. It's actually just the pie is growing bigger. If the pie is getting bigger, it's a win for everybody. It's just about how then we divide up the pie. So yeah, we don't work on quotas at all. And if it means then that, in a tender, once we got through pre-qualification, the tendering suppliers could be all diverse or no diverse. It's about, suitability rather than a set number.
Yeah, and I'd add to that, Ade, this is where imposter syndrome really creeps into the diverse supplier, right? We tend to think that we're not good enough and they won't want to work with us. And so we talk ourselves out of actually applying for these opportunities. The whole purpose of Kaleida and companies like the Coventry Building Society is to give you access to opportunities that you may never have thought you can have access to before in the past. Next question coming in, and we'll try and be a bit punchy if we can with the questions, please, because we have to get through this. I think we'll go to Michelle first. Michelle, please. Fakes, you've got a question.
Oh, hi, Rebecca. My question is about the tendering process, because I think when you mention the word tender to a small business, and I've written some for working for charities and stuff in the past, it's a long and big process, and I've done funding tenders in the past, so that might put off businesses. So what is the tendering process like? What advice would you give a small business, often a one-man band, about completing tenders?
Hi, Michelle. It's a really great question, because you're spot on. Often what firms give you to complete, it's huge, massive questionnaires, lots and lots of different criteria. It's really off-putting. And I think just in the same way as, I've talked about, we as procurement people sort of pre-qualify suppliers, I think it's quite important for the small business to pre-qualify tenders and sort of think, yes, there's an opportunity there. I think we can do it. It looks appealing, but do have that conversation with that team beforehand to understand, is this tender a good fit for my organization? Is there something about the pre-qualification criteria which may disadvantage me in some way? And for most procurement teams, they will already have their pre-qualification criteria set in advance of launching the tender. Now, if they're obviously part of like a government public sector organization, they have to publish that. For private sector organizations, or for us as a mutual, we do not, and we don't tend to publish it, but we're very happy to share it in advance with anyone who asks us. So if, for example, we say, well, for this solution, it's essential that the supplier has the ability to complete it the work in the next 6 weeks, or it's essential that you've got people based in the West Midlands, or it's essential you can get to our site in less than 2 hours. There might be some elements of pre-qualification that you think, I like the look of that tender, but I don't think that is me. I don't think we're quite a fit for that. Whereas some different works, I'm just thinking at the moment, I think we've got on the platform, we're hoping to run some D&I training across the entire organization this year. So it's out as kind of a training package. It could be in person, it could be online. So it's scalable. It doesn't matter if you're one person or if you're 100 people. The access is kind of equal, I suppose, to all there. There's no barriers there. I think there's nothing in that tender which I think, I'd sort of counsel a little bit and say, oh no, I'm not sure if I'd go for that one. So I think pre-qualification is right, and I think there's no harm whatsoever just to sort of put your hand up and say, I'm interested in it. Just send me the documents, because you know what you're getting into then. And obviously if the documents are like a huge, great big binder, or, you have to fill in a giant questionnaire before you can even get to the tender, there's kind of sort of work to do beforehand. Again, you might sort of pre-qualify that and think, not on this occasion, unless it's really worth it. So I think it's spot on for you to be just as choosy you know, as perhaps the buyer sees, and where there's something there that you think, gosh, that's a no-brainer, you know, that is absolutely what the firm does, then those are the ones I'd prioritize.
Fantastic. Great question, Michelle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebecca.
What we're going to do very quickly, right, is I'm going to show you the buyer's experience in Kaleida so you can see what they do and how they see opportunities. So bear with me a second whilst so right now we've got a whole number of live tenders in the platform. What we're going to do is we're going to log into it. And I'm going to show you what Rebecca and her team would do in the platform to find companies they might want to invite to participate in a tender, okay? So the first thing that they'll want to do, if I can just move this button around, there you go, that's good. What they will do is they'll perform a company search, okay, in the center. When they come into company search, what they're trying to do is find companies that perform a service that they will be looking for. And in the Kaleida platform, there are a series of sectors that they filter by in order to help them find the companies that they might want to invite to participate in the tender. Bear in mind, there's two ways to work in the platform. The first one is a buyer can search for companies and invite them to participate. Or the second one is they can create a tender and it will alert you that there's a brand new opportunity in the platform. In the searching process, let's say we click on sector, we'll type in training services, right? We'll do a quick search. And what we're going to do now is find any company in the platform that performs and they've tagged themselves against the training services sector, okay? So Kaleida is going to say, bring back any company that performed a training service. In this case here, we also can add a filter of diversity. So show us all businesses in the platform that are owned by Asian-owned, Black-owned, disabled-owned, etc. Let's remove SME because we want to make sure they are diverse-owned businesses. And now what we'll do is we'll click on search. So any company in the platform that does a training service that's diverse-owned, click on search. And immediately what Kaleida will do in a couple of seconds is return the companies on the platform to the buyer to show them that there are these companies that perform training services that are tagged as being diverse, okay? That they are then able to invite these companies to maybe participate in the tender process if they want to, okay? That's a very quick run through of what the buyer will do in the Kaleida platform and to find out what companies there are in the system to find that they can invite to participate in that tender. So when you click, if I click into one of these companies, for instance, I say to Dr. Mega Consulting, what you will see is in some cases, the company hasn't posted any content. So it's important that you post content because it gives Rebecca and her team access to information to help them identify your business and assess you, okay? On the left-hand side, they can perform a risk, demonstrate their risk profile or a company self-assessment, their identity. This company, they are self-certified. They are LGBTQ plus owned, but they're also neurodiverse owned and other minority owned. As a company ethics, they are focused on animal welfare and they're green ethical and they're socially conscious. This gives the buyer some real interesting information about that supplier. They add them to the tender cart and they can invite them to participate in that tender process. So that's a quick example of how the buyer would use Kaleida to find, identify and assess a supplier before they invite them to participate in the tender. So that's it from Rebecca. Rebecca, thank you so much. You guys can come back on camera if you want to for answering those questions. And we're going to move on very swiftly now. I'm very pleased also to introduce you to our diverse supplier in the business. So Rebecca, yeah, thank you very much for the questions. And I'm sure there'll be some more at the end if you are able to hold on. But it gives me great pleasure to now also introduce you to Nurup Nyamji, who is also a diverse supplier. He should be pinned at the top. Nurup, good morning to you, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm in the Czech Republic, so it's cold. So,
It's cold.
well,
What
yeah,
temperature do you have there?
it's I've got my duvet on my legs. So other than that, great.
Fantastic, excellent. So look, so Nurup,
Yeah.
tell me a bit about your role within the business, and then we'll talk about what your business 3, 2, 1 go check is. So what's the business first, and what is your role?
So we do background checks. So if I could poll people on this meeting right now, I'd ask, has anyone been involved in a background checking process as either an employee, a tenant, employer, or landlord, right? And chances are you have been. And that's very much been my case, having worked in financial services for 15, 20 years as a contractor, and then moving into London and working in a city and looking for places to live. During those years as a contractor and looking for places to live, the hardest part in that process wasn't actually getting the job. It felt like it wasn't actually finding the place. It was waiting 3 weeks to find out whether or not I passed a stupid background check. Right. And that's a horrible, horrible process. It's so stressful. It's not transparent. And everyone in the chain is just full of angst. So what we're doing and what we have been doing for the past 4 years is building a background checking platform that helps landlords and employers and tenants and employees just get information quickly digitally, all one platform, being transparent, solving a background checking problem. That's what we're doing.
Fantastic. And your role, you put yourself down as a chief doer or head doer.
I'm a senior, not chief. No. I'm a senior doer, not just a doer. I'm a senior doer.
Very good. So as a senior doer, Nura, what's it like running the business, and what's your sales process like today? What's it like finding sales opportunities?
Running the business. So we're a startup, right? We're a startup. First and foremost, we're a startup, and that's something. And I posed a question a few moments ago to Rebecca. How do you convince your stakeholders that this startup can actually add value to your business? And that's something maybe a few years ago that had some stigma to it, especially if you're dealing with big companies. And I know, Jason, when you and I were working together in the city, we were working for a company I was working for a company called AXA. And, AXA is a big conglomerate, global company. They kind of frowned on different sizes of companies, right? If you're a small company, they kind of frowned on small companies because smaller companies maybe carry a bigger amount of risk. So we are a startup, and so I run the business as a startup, but also as a startup, knowing that we are very, very capable in terms of adopting and using technology and delivering a better, quicker solutions and capabilities.
Right.
I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I guess from a what are some of the challenges that you've had or experienced in running your startup organization? With a focus on the sales piece, perhaps.
So on the sales piece, the challenges are knowing who wants to use your service, knowing which customers, who are angry, which people are not happy, because there's a group of people that's going to be doing background checks and they're going to be using an old process. So the first challenge is, well, who are they? And can we actually convince them that if you don't do this digitally, then it's actually a bad experience for everyone? So that's the first problem. Then the second problem is, well, if you are targeting new businesses, well, which size businesses should you be targeting? Because if you're a new business, the first problem you have is not necessarily the background checking problem. Right. So new businesses, and knowing at what stage in their evolution as a business are they going to need background checking. So those are the slight challenges we have.
And so you're a client of the Kaleida platform as well.
I am.
You were recently alerted to an opportunity that you perhaps, would it be fair to say you never knew it existed prior to being alerted by?
So yes. So as a startup, one of the biggest challenges then is, right, how do you get exposure to what's out there? And one of the biggest challenges I have is just being able to take in as much information as possible on a regular basis to make decisions, but you don't know where to take in information. So you don't know where to go to get information about who could use your service. And I'm fortunate that I knew you, Jason, right? It's sheer luck that I knew you and that you had this platform. And I thought, okay, you know what you're doing. I can see you're making inroads. I can see you're onboarding lots of companies. So having signed up to your platform, lo and behold, there was an opportunity that I saw we bid for. It was an opportunity by a company called a CPC, and they represent over 8,000 UK businesses. So after a 6 to 8 month procurement process, we were selected as one of the vendors to provide background checking services to these 8,000 businesses. And that, for us as a startup, is the difference between actually failing and succeeding. failing on the basis that if you can't demonstrate as a startup that people will use your platform, then you'll just die.
Right.
If, however, you can demonstrate to big organizations that actually we meet all of those criteria, we meet all your criteria in terms of delivering capability, in terms of being on top of tech, being in terms of engaging everyone in that chain, and people being happy and seeing that you're actually contributing, then that was a big win for us. It's a massive win for us.
And I have prepared you for this question in advance. And the question is, without giving away your side of the deal, can you discuss the deal size? What was the deal size that you were able to win part of?
So that deal size was valued at £250 million. But keeping in mind, that deal size was based on a framework, and that framework was broken down into 5 lots. So that £250 million is not allocated to the lots that we won, lots 4 and 5, which is for criminal checks and for screening services. That was across the whole HR process, including payroll, including onboarding. So it was 250 mil for 5 lots, but that involves 6 vendors. So the companies that won were a group of 7.
Right. So the reason why I asked the question, guys, because on Kaleida, what you'll find, there are some large opportunities that may scare you off applying to them. But in actual fact, when they're broken down into lots, you may be able to win a portion of a larger deal. That's the reason why I've asked the question, and to kind of give you guys some guidance in that. And I'm really proud of that Nur and his business, as a founding business, was able to win those. Guys, any questions for Nur? Nur, thank you so much for answering my question. It's really good to speak. I'm glad that you're beginning to see the results of your real hard work. Any questions, please, for Nur? Again, please just unmute yourself and just speak out. There's got to be 2 at least. I can see Chanel, you're thinking of a question. Okay, so fine, look, let's pause for a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the supplier's experience in Kaleida, okay? So from a supplier's perspective, when you create your company, you tag your company to the sectors of the services that you provide. You can tag yourself to multiple sectors. Every morning, you'll receive an email alert from Kaleida that will alert you of opportunities that you might want to go for. Okay, so you don't have to, but you might want to go for those. But let's have a look in the platform itself, what it looks like and how the application process looks like. So we're now going to share the screen. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on the home page in Kaleida. So there was a question around the content. What I was referring to content is you can make write posts in Kaleida as if you was posting into LinkedIn. Okay, so it's posts that you can expand, and every post in the platform is actually tagged or attributed to a type. So this is a company post. They are labeled as company posts, and they have a light blue halo. If we were to go down, we made a company announcement that is haloed with red. The Silvera company had an innovation announcement, which is haloed as a royal blue post. So post content into the platform. In addition, however, if we were to use the filter options, we can turn on tenders. I'm now going to turn on tenders, and what you'll see in the platform itself is the front screen will now refresh, and immediately what you'll be able to see are all the different live orange opportunities that currently are active within the platform that you can apply for. Now, again, when you're going to use the filters, we're going to use the filters this time to remove, let's say we go for just the UK opportunities. So I'm going to use by country, use just UK. And we're going to stick with training services. Click on select sector. We'll type in training services. And bear in mind, you can use the drop downs here to select the sectors instead of doing a word search. Okay, so I could choose this way, or I can do a word search instead. Click on search. We'll stick with training services, and now we'll do a search in Kaleida. And what we're now going to get back is any opportunities in the platform that are currently active that are related to training services. And as a supplier, what you see is the Yorkshire Water Services, they've got a £3 million contract, again, focused on training services. If I was to scroll down, they're looking for technical training, health and first aid training, specialist training, safety training, okay? A £3 million contract, again, that we've broken down into different lots. You can apply for what you want to apply. As we scroll down, there's one for £450,000, and we keep going down. And what we know is there are other organizations who are buying these services. And if I go to all training services, search, what we should be able to see is, yeah, ultimately there's lots of opportunities in the platform itself that you can apply for, including the Coventry Building Society one as well. So if I just do a quick filter by, let's say we go to private sector, you utilize the filters to find what you want and to filter out the screen to give you what you want. So I've got a date range in there somewhere. Bear with me a sec. Yep. What we'll do instead is, actual fact, I'll also click on the left-hand side over here. We'll click into Coventry Building Society. And what we'll now have in the center of the screen are the opportunities that are returned when you look at the Coventry Building Society as a company, okay? So we're going to this particular buyer, and here we'll be able to see their tenders in the platform as well. And the great thing about Kaleida is now we know that the Coventry are buying, if we click onto this one here, they are buying training services, okay? What you're able to do as a supplier is simply click on this handshake button and say, I can do this opportunity, I can fulfill this 100%, okay? Then you click on submit, and it will send a notification to the Coventry Building Society team that your business has signaled and noticed to participate in this tender process. They will then assess and then see if they can invite you to join the process. Where you may have a concern that you can only deliver 60% of that tender, okay, but you know that your friend across the road can actually do the other 40%, you can invite that company. Oops. Copy. So you can invite that company to perform the other 40%. And now you send that company a notification to say, hi, Sarah Jane over at Human Capital Consultancy, we've got this opportunity. We want to partner with you to join you to do it together. Can we go together? And that creates a mini consortium that then can apply to the Coventry Building Society or any opportunity to participate together. So just to kind of revisit that, you get alerts in the morning of any opportunities that exist that you may be able to apply for, and then you can apply in the platform itself by using that handshake button. So I'm going to stop again sharing the screen here, and we'll go back to come back on the camera, and I wonder if there's any questions at all on that part of the process. The whole session was designed to kind of give you access into what it's like to be on the front end of the platform from a buying perspective and from a supplier's perspective. Right. So any feedback at all on the platform and the brief view of the platform, or was that quite self-explanatory?
Jason, hi, it's Colin here.
Hi, Colin.
Well, fantastic initiative, and it's great to see traction, etc., on such an important topic, basically. One question I have around sort of phishing, I guess, is there any sort of qualifications on the opportunities being posted are actually genuine, and that, I don't know, budgets are signed off, etc., or just to sort of manage bidders' expectations, etc.? I mean, how kind of genuine, and how are you sort of capturing metrics on number of postings that result in a contract being awarded, etc., just to sort of look at trust, basically?
Okay, so I'll invite Rebecca to the question as well, if Rebecca's available right now. But to your question, Colin, from our perspective, our private sector partners only put tenders into the platform that they are actually actively ready to buy. This is a live opportunity. Rebecca, what will be your address to Colin's question?
Yeah, agreed. As you say, it is, Jason, just for live opportunities. We don't tend to publish a pipeline at all. And sorry, Colin, remind me, was there another part to the question just about, the corporate buyer's approach?
Yeah, but it's all about trust, isn't it, basically, and sort of managing expectations. people, yeah, they understand sometimes you actually need to have a dialogue there in terms of what are innovations in the marketplace, all that sort of stuff. But I guess if they're posting opportunities, a bit like a jobs board, basically, there can be a perception of phishing if they're basically pumping a whole lot of effort into bidding and there's nothing actually resulting at the end of it, basically. So, so it's that kind of perception, really.
Agreed. Sorry,
sorry,
Jason, go for it. Yeah.
I mean, look, for my 14 years in sales, there are often times, right, where companies are doing a fishing expedition in order to get a better rate with their existing incumbent supplier. That is part of what happens in that tender process in some cases. But what we try to do as a business is to ensure we partner with businesses who understand that this is really about supporting small businesses and the marginalized communities. And so whilst I cannot guarantee that every opportunity 100% goes through to conclusion, because things sometimes do change, we are very selective with the partners who we work with. We just told a large retail organization that they're not ready for us just yet. And so we won't be working with them right now. And it is a big loss to us as a brand, but in actual fact, we're trying to do what's right by you, by the supplier. Rebecca, do you want to add to that at all? Or?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with what Colin says about, building trust. And again, I'll just go back to that point about kind of pre-qualifying your opportunities. So if you had a chat to speak to the corporate buying team, you understand exactly what the requirements about, maybe just get a bit more confidence that they're not just publishing it for the sake of it. I mean, each organization will have a different approach as to who they are inviting to tender. We tend to take more of a kind of like restricted approach, if you're using public sector language, that we wouldn't just open it out to anyone. We would only invite organizations that we had a fair degree of confidence that we can pre-qualify. So we'll be sort of opening things out only where we think, there's a chance that we'll get a good fit. It's not a matter of sort of, spray and pray, just put it out everywhere and hope that you get hundreds of responses back. But I think it's only through discussion you can find that out about, is it really worth me taking part in this? But certainly I think that's the beauty of the Kaleida platform, is that it takes effort to put things on there. So I'm not just going to put loads of stuff on it for the sake of it. I'm only going to put things on there that I think it is a good fit, for the businesses that we're speaking about. If it's something where clearly you could never do the work, if you just weren't an organization with 500,000 employees, I might then think I'm not going to put that on the platform because that potentially is not of interest to the sorts of firms that are registered.
Yeah, typically you find, Colin, that there is in the tail spend of an organization, they tend to be opportunities, let's say pre £250,000 typically. Those are the types of opportunities that you find in the platform. Anything above that, for the most part, from the private sector, they tend to not really be a good fit for the platform, because most SMEs, most marginalized businesses don't really have the capacity to deliver a 1, 2, 5, 10 million pound contract, typically speaking. So we're very selective on what we understand our audience to be. And Nura, I guess to expand on Colin's question, you had an interesting experience with the tender that you eventually won, that you said 8 months. Just very briefly, if you can, just talk us through that, because I guess it's real life experiences that everyone is here to listen to.
So it was a lengthy process. So a couple of things. If you're going to go through, if you know the tendering process will be lengthy, you need to be confident in yourself that you know your business really, really well. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you need to know operationally, financially, security, on all facets of the business spectrum. You need to have a detailed understanding of your business. If you don't have a detailed understanding of your business, which is what most large procurement processes involve, is you being able to demonstrate at a detailed level that your business will be able to handle all challenges as it goes through delivering essential services. And if you don't have a strong handle of that, then you're going to come up with lots of problems. But it doesn't mean it's such a big challenge that you cannot overcome it. So for us, it was a combination of things. I knew our business really well, but I was forced to understand how much additional improvement we needed to make to service the client had we won it. So for example, they asked things around what would happen if we have all these members suddenly complaining? walk us through that scenario. How are you going to handle those complaints? And that's actually a really, really fair question. What happens if all of a sudden 10 members use a platform, but then it's a horrible experience? So they want to know quite lots of detail. How are you going to cater for that? So the response then was, for me, I didn't have a solution in mind, but it forced me to think through that scenario. And what we did in the end was we committed to integrating a tool called Zendesk. So Zendesk is the latest tech solution that allows users to go on the platform and just lodge or initiate conversations directly with us. It forced us to have things like WhatsApp, email support, right? So we had to incorporate and build customer support solutions that demonstrate not only could we deal with large amounts of complaints, but we could actually provide metrics on how we're progressing with those complaints. And that's only one area in which you really need to be clear how you're going to service large clients, because ultimately, going through a procurement this size, you're competing with bigger firms, right?
Yeah.
And go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, no, thank you. Like really detailed answer, and I think it's really important that everyone understands that there is a process. One of the things that we do discuss with our corporate buyer partners is that there is a view to also reduce some of the numbers of questions that are in these tenders. So the tenders I've done in the past in the sales process involved, perhaps 35 pages of questions in the. With an understanding of how small businesses operate and how diverse businesses operate, sometimes some questions aren't relevant. And Rebecca touched on that today. They remove some of the barriers to give you a chance to be successful. Look, really interesting conversation and question. Nurut, thank you for your detailed response. And Rebecca, thank you for your contribution as well. Guys, as we wrap today's session up, I hope you found it really useful and interesting. Are there any final questions that you have? There's been a lot on the chat, which I'm glad of, but I can't get through all of them. Do you want to ask any questions of Rebecca or Nurut or myself just before we kind of bring this session to a unfortunate close? I don't want it to end. It's been quite good. Any questions from anyone, please, as we kind of I want to respect your time as well.
Can I ask a quick question?
Helen, hi, sure, go ahead.
Hi, so I just joined your platform yesterday, and you mentioned about adding posts like as you would do on LinkedIn. So are there any particular types of information that you would suggest? For example, I can put up information about what my company does in terms of our services, and news generally about the company, but just from, I guess, a buyer's perspective, is there anything that would help us as suppliers stand out?
Rebecca, I guess a good question for you, really. So Kaleida's been, Helen, to your question, Kaleida's been built to kind of help you guide you on what you should be posting, right? There's a company meeting, there's a company update, there's company announcement, there's an innovation announcement tags that you can post the content too. But Rebecca, what do you think buyers are, what are you looking for?
I think, Helen, it's just important to keep the response really brief, to highlight what you believe you offer as a diverse firm. And in particular, if you do have any accreditations, certificates, awards, all of those things go down really well with suppliers. They want to see hallmarks of quality. So anything that you think they might raise as a potential objections about the business size or the experience or the quality, just get that out there straight away. If you've got good references, if you've got a corporate client you've worked with already, just lead on all of that and keep it brief.
So good. I think my Wi-Fi decided to end. But thank you, Rebecca, for taking that. Yeah, so the platform's designed for you to share who you buy from and sell to today. Buyers want to know exactly who are your existing clients, right? And it'll help to qualify you from that perspective. Post content about your business, because Kaleida is designed to showcase your company, not your personal life. LinkedIn is all about, I've got dogs, I've got cats, and I've got 2 kids. I've got a hangover today, and LinkedIn loves that. But I wanted to cut through the noise and create a platform that the business can shine. And that's why it kind of guides you on some of the content that you post within the platform. Great question, Helen. Thank you very much. Any other questions, again, with respect of your time and Rebecca's time and Nurit's time as well? Any final questions that you have, please, that we can address? I'm happy to stay on for another 5 or 10 minutes today and bid our guests goodbye, and I will stop the recording. But any final questions, please, and I'll give you guys a, yeah. Okay, doesn't seem like there's any questions. What I will do is, we have prepared a coupon that if you do wish to join the Kaleida platform, please make a note of that coupon code down the bottom. It will give you 1 month subscription free to the platform. The idea is to help you use the platform and get familiar with it at no risk to yourselves. But we've got a number of clients now who are joining the platform. Just now, I've just seen that G4S have added 5 or 6 of their procurement teams into the platform as well. G4S are one of our clients. So it means they'll be looking to add more tenders into the platform in the next couple of days as well. So I'll stop the sharing now. I want to thank you all for joining the session today. I'm going to stay on for another 5 or 10 minutes, but I will end the recording today. I want to thank you all for your time today. And the sales tip, as we close off the session, is please do set yourself a sales target. To do that, you need to understand how much revenue do you want to make this year, then divide that by the average sale price of your average product, and then that will give you the amount of sales you need to make per month in order to hit your sales target. Very basic stuff. A lot of small businesses don't go through it. Thank you all very much for your time today. I wish you guys all much success and hopefully see you in the next session, which is the last Friday of every month. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Nurit.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.